Howdy.
I was wondering what was taking you so long.
What kind of shoes you got on there?
Topo?
Topos. Hey, look at what we got here.
I love these shoes. Is that what you want me to say?
I did not cue you up for that.
I know you did. Toe kept hitting the front the whole time down. And then I was told I had to get a half size bigger.
Okay, yeah, oh
because
yeah.
my feet will swell, which I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so I did, and this is, I did Shaw Mountain last week. Same shoes. And then what's the first one? Starts with a C.
Kepros?
Yes.
What's it with a K though? It is with a K though.
Oh, it's a K? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
No, this is Kepros.
What? Oh, this is Kepros.
Yeah.
Cervidae.
Cervidae.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I forgot where I was at.
So, no blisters, not a one. And merino wool socks, my new best. Assuming I'm going this way.
I got Creepers toe socks on right here.
Oh.
Yeah, we're just gonna
like
follow.
those?
They're awesome, yeah.
I haven't tried them because I just am afraid to.
It's like Injinji, but they're softer. So same kind of thing. They're a little bit. They're kind of thickish, but softer material.
Do your toes feel a little more cramped in your
Well,
toe box?
in the Topo they're good,
Oh.
but not like in Topo Ultra, things like that. But in a regular shoe, then you're gonna be squeezed a little bit.
Yeah.
But in this, I wear them mostly in Topos. They're great.
Oh. Well, maybe I'll venture out.
Cool.
Am I going the right way?
Yeah,
Okay,
just
good.
follow it all the way.
All right.
Oh,
What does it say on the back?
Oh, there you go.
Ultra.
Ultra Venture 4. See?
See, I knew the 4.
I had it right.
The 4 was in there somewhere.
Yeah. Fortuitous timing there. Met a nice hiker on the way up. Same route here. Kepros route. Probably about 9 or 10 miles round trip. I haven't been out this way in a while. But I am out here in the Topo Pursuit 3 today. She was out here in the Ultra Venture 4. I didn't recognize them right away because I hadn't run in actually version 4. I only ran in version 3. I know version 4 was actually just an upper update, and it looked actually kind of similar in design to this Pursuit 3 in terms of the look of it. Different than V3. It's why I didn't notice it right away, but long distance cushion. She is planning for the Camino Trail, something like 500 miles in Europe in September. So Ultra Venture, talked about socks, talked about comfort fit. Ultra Venture will be great in fact for that route. Got a very steep entry off of the trailhead and some initial rollers on my way out here, but then it'll flatten out a little bit down the trail here into some more, at least slightly runnable rollers. Don't always start talking about the outsole, but it's appropriate here. Vibram Mega Grip, traditional Topo pattern here. 4mm lugs, so a lot of these rocks underfoot, getting good traction, good grip here, and like that hiker back there, she's gonna be out on that Camino Trail for 500 miles. Great durability. Little panorama here. Came through there. There are little side spurs along this route, so you can kind of cut around some of these rollers, but feeling good today. Feeling better with the legs. This Topo Pursuit 3 here is billed as a technical trail runner. 0 drop here. Spec stack is 28 millimeters, but I do have them slightly higher at 30. Likely get a little bit of compression over time, of course, so you'll be in that upper 20s, close to 30 range with this Pursuit 3 here. I do have my Pursuit 2 back at the truck for comparison. It's probably not a coincidence that I did some of my original test runs in that shoe out here in the Danskins. Pretty rugged. There's some ATV dirt bike trails, but less used trails for sure. A little bit outside of the city here, a little more wild and rugged. And I love the Pursuit 2 back then. It must have been 3 years ago by now, maybe a little more. And thought the Pursuit 3 would be a appropriate pick out here. Heading down here, gonna wind kind of along this ridge here, around back by those rocks, and then ride the ridge all the way to Kepros at the end. There is a big steep pitch right before the end there. Now, Topos technical sheets do break down the total stack. So they give a midsole measurement. I believe it's around 17 or something like that. You've got the 4 mil lugs, of course, base outsole. There is a Strobel board in there, maybe a couple small layers. And of course, the beaded ETPU FKT insole, which I think they do list at 5 millimeters. So all in all, they add that up to 28 and I get 30. There is no plate in the mix here, and I love that aspect of the shoe. Love that in the Pursuit version 2. Also version 1 for that matter, but I think this version 3 definitely closer to version 2. It is just an upper update here from version 1 to version 2. Quite a bit of changes, including dialing back a lot of volume. With such a wide upper in version 1, I did feel that it wasn't as protective feeling as version 2 and now version 3. You can see a lot of these rocks that I'm crossing over here. This is actually not as bad as some of those earlier parts. But the FKT insole, Vibram, Mega Grip, deep lugs here. Pretty squarish, nice and chunky. Plus the zip foam midsole itself, which is not overly soft. It has kind of that Topo absorptive, kind of dense style feeling to it. That is good for protection in technical terrain. So I'm able to run over a lot of these rocky parts very comfortably without really feeling anything poking me underfoot. Dampening, that was the word I was just searching for back there. That is the word I often use to describe zip foam. Topo kind of plays with the formulation a little bit. I also have the Vista back at the truck. Stack height on that one is listed at 35-30. I think I have it measured similarly. The foam in that one, still call it zip foam again, but it does feel softer underfoot. And it's not just the heel area. The foam itself feels a lot more compression to it, whereas this one, not as much. It's just like dampening any harshness underfoot, rockiness. This ground is certainly hard over here this morning, and it just dampens that out without feeling overly soft, overly squishy, or unstable at all. I just dropped my microphone as I was talking here. Oh, there it is. Oh, I was looking for a minute or two there. I had it next to my hose here. This is probably not a good idea. All right, where were we there? I wanted to talk about the main feature and the main selling point of this Topo Pursuit 3, and the same thing applies to Pursuit 2. Still have that shoe, as I said, still love that shoe. I do have a US 10 EU44 here, whereas with the Pursuit 2, I had a US 9.5. Just one of those things. It was quite comfortable, but I felt like I was always having to wear thinner socks in that shoe, especially since I believe that was the first shoe they switched to the FKT insole. I typically like to run with a toe sock in Topo shoes. You can see my Creepers merino wool toe sock here. Perfect fit here, but I will note the Vista does run larger. I do have the Vista also in a US 10. And after running in that shoe for some time, even initially, I was kind of worried that maybe I should go back to a 9.5 at Topo, because that one is very spacious, especially up front, even in front of the toes here. Noticeable full thumbs width in the Vista, whereas I don't have that full thumbs width here in the Pursuit 3, more like 2/3, I'd say. Another little rise coming up here, I think, before we get to the main ridge. And I believe that is the top of Kepros off in the distance there. So as far as comparative sizing, Pursuit 2 and 3 should fit about the same. Vista is going to run a little bit longer. Don't quite remember. The last Ultra Venture I tested was V3, and I think I don't remember version 3 fitting as large as the Vista does. So the Ultra Venture may fit somewhere just shy of the Vista. The Vista seems really big relative to Topo sizing. I believe the Ultra Venture 5 is coming out sometime this summer, and I will go with the US 10 in that one. I think the Vista is going to be more like an outlier, and I would normally have the space I want in most Topo 10s, including this Pursuit 3 here. Got an early start this morning. Had to drop off my wife and daughter at the airport. One of her friends and her mom's going on a girls trip. School just ended. They end early here in Boise. So last day was yesterday. They're on their way to sunny San Diego and Legoland for a nice fun mommy-daughter trip. And I'm up early and out here. Who can complain about anything? The main aspect I did want to harp on with the Pursuit is the ride, the underfoot feel of this zero drop ride here. I think it's one of the best and certainly one of the most supportive. A lot of times zero drop rides can tend to feel flatter underfoot. They can feel a little bit less supportive under the arch. Most Topo shoes, zero drop or otherwise, even the ones with their drop, they do also have that kind of signature contouring under the arch. Most runners are aware of it. You either like it or don't like it. If it's mild and not overdone, I do tend to like it, and that's how I find Topo's arch contouring to be just very slight and kind of like that feel under the arch compared to, say, just feeling flat and kind of feel like I'm collapsing inward, especially when it comes to zero drop shoes. So the combination of those elements I've talked about already just makes the shoe feel very supportive underfoot, both under the arch and in terms of not necessarily feeling like your traditional flat riding zero drop shoe. You've got that Topo arch contour, as I talked about, FKT insole, very absorptive, gives that nice kind of textured feel underfoot too, which I really like. That dampening zip foam, not overly soft, plus of course the Vibram Mega Grip, which gives solid support underfoot, good protection, and I think in the heel, maybe it even allows the heel to stand up a little bit more, maybe not compress down as much. It maintains that zero drop without veering into, as it can tend to feel like sometimes, if you're not accustomed to running in zero drop shoes especially, can veer into negative drop territory, in fact, whereas you feel like you really get that stretch at the Achilles, the lower calf, the back of your heel. I never felt that at all in the Pursuit 2, and same thing here with the Pursuit 3. The drop just really seems to stand up, if you want to call it that. I mean, if they even told me this was, say, a 2 mil drop, I would really go with that, because it just has that kind of a feel to it where I think, and I have mentioned this in the past, the Pursuit model is, for me, really the best entry point into zero drop running. If you're zero drop curious, or perhaps you're even just going out for a hike, or even kind of walking around day to day, you want to try to maybe strengthen up, lengthen out those Achilles, calf, kind of heel areas that maybe don't necessarily get as stretched out if you're running in higher drop shoes all the time. I think the Pursuit 3 would be the best model to start with. It is zero drop, but a lot of zero drop models also lean into that natural feel, i.e. no support under the arch, maybe kind of excessively wide in the forefoot. The Pursuit 3, certainly compared to the Vista and the Ultra Venture in terms of Topo models, not as wide in the toe box as those. It's wide compared to your standard trail running shoe, but a little bit more dialed with the Pursuit 3 here. That plus that arch contour support, again, it's not that much of a drastic difference going from, say, a 5 or 6 mil drop into this shoe. I definitely notice it a lot less when I'm running and testing other models and then switch over into the Pursuit. Yep, that's it up there, but get to dip off into this far stuff on the side here on the way up. Topo as a brand has never been one to skimp on high quality and durable materials. That tends to translate into higher weight. These do weigh in at 10.9 ounces, 310 grams. Again, US 10, EU 44. That's not really a excessively high weight. A little on the higher end, but you have to consider this upper is extremely durable, full Vibram mega grip, big chunky lugs. You have to think about the durability you're getting with that outsole and the upper. Everything else with the shoe itself, FKT insole does enhance the durability of the shoe itself. Makes that midsole foam stand up a little bit more than ortholite insoles of the past. And again, falling just short of 11 ounces here is not too bad here. You have to consider you're going to get a lot of miles out of this shoe, and also in technical terrain. Zero drop shoes tend to be less reliant, and again, the cushioning in this model is not as soft as the Vista. So this type of shoe is less reliant on the softness and bounce of the midsole foam. You have a denser foam here, touch of extra weight, and for those of you that are looking at this as a long distance hiking shoe, kind of mix of run hike situation potentially, I don't think you should be scared off by this weight at all, because at zero drop also it does feel quite balanced, and Topo shoes generally always feel quite balanced. This one being zero drop feels even more balanced. So a higher weight shoe with a better weight balance front to back, I always find that the weight is less noticeable to me because it's distributed evenly front to back across your foot, not just kind of hanging off in the heel, which is most often the case. Price point of $155 also does seem appropriate to me, and probably even a bit of a value when you consider those factors I just talked about. The softness, squishiness of the midsole, less of a factor in this style of shoe. And with that outsole, again, you're gonna get a lot of miles out of this one. So $155 is kind of moderate, kind of standard these days. You don't see too many $130 shoes really anymore. I can't think of that many. MSRP, that is. Of course, you should always kind of look for deals. It is Memorial Day weekend right now. You can see how maneuverable this shoe is for me here. Just a few logs over there to hop over. Nothing major, but twisty and turny, narrower here. Kind of like not necessarily right here as it's getting more exposed this way. But I am having to swing my legs around, sometimes around some sagebrush on the edges of the path as it's twisting and turning. And this is a shoe that feels great for that. Feels like well balanced, super secure on my foot. We'll take a close up once we get to the top there. Fit is excellent, and just kind of putting my feet wherever they need to be, twisting and turning, kind of angling, dipping and diving is really feeling good in the shoe. If memory serves, I think it's about half-mile climb up here, maybe a little more. This little kicker here up to the top, kind of steep, and I personally have not run anything steep in quite a while, but in terms of the shoe, very good flex here. No plate, of course, no film, just that kind of Vibram mega grip base to keep up tension. I'm able to feel the ground quite well, especially climbing here under the ball of the foot. Toe splay, also good, but again, controlled. I don't feel like I'm loose in this upper here. My toes are spreading. Get a good grab between my toes and the ball of the foot, but not moving side to side at all. I feel like I'm just getting to the sides of this upper here, just spreading to the sides of the upper with the edges of my toes. So if you are looking for that toe splay, that natural style toe box without being excessively natural, Pursuit 3, certainly a model well worth looking into, as long as you're okay with the zero drop. And again, it is a more comfortable zero drop here, but if you find some of those natural models too wide, in fact, like you're swimming in them most of the time, in terms of toe box and forefoot width, Pursuit 3 is a great option. Pop off the shoe real quick here. Take a look at the flex first of all. As you can see, quite supportive under the middle of the shoe. It's not a shoe that easily flexes around the middle there. I noted on the way up this climb here, it was about half a mile, easy flex at the ball of the foot. So as I'm climbing, you get really good feel under here. Toes can spread out in here. Got my Creepers toe socks here, of course, but you do feel quite supported under the rest of the shoe. That's why I feel like this is a really great zero drop option. Never feels like I'm collapsing inward under here. It never feels flat under the middle of the shoe. And you can see with the flex, there's good twist, but there is some amount of tension to it. And again, in this direction, it's pretty solid under here. So that's gonna give you good protection, good support while you're running. One of the reasons why I don't feel a lot of these rocks getting through here is because it's quite substantial under here. And if you're running in this zero drop style of shoe, you are more acquainted with feeling things out under your forefoot. So you'll feel a touch more kind of pressure through here, but nothing sharp getting through under there. Again, the blockiness of the lugs here, the squarish nature, you're more than likely going to catch, especially a lot of these kind of thicker rocks, you're going to catch a lot of that in these deep squared lugs here. 4mm, again, Vibram Mega Grip, and you have the rubber coverage throughout. There are a few flex grooves under there, but again, the rocks are going to catch a lot of those lugs, so a lot of it you'll often feel just slight pressure under the foot, not like a jab of sharpness getting through there. Quick look around the upper. Again, Topo doesn't skimp on any of this. The mesh is quite durable. It's not the most breathable shoe. It is quite a closed mesh, so you're not going to get a lot of debris getting in through there. Not the most breathable for sure. Tight weave here, but comfort oriented. Certainly all around there. No issues for me anywhere in this collar. They very well padded it up there. The tongue is nice and thick. Tip it over here to the other shoe. Nice height here. That is certainly an issue with the Vista. They have a different, thinner design tongue with a little notch there, and it's also shorter. So I am also, again, laced up to the second eyelet here, just for, I don't know, a little bit better heel hold. I don't notice any slippage at all, but I think as with the Vista, this opening seems to be quite wide in this Pursuit 3, and certainly in the Vista, I felt that more. So I do lace directly to that second eyelid here, skip the first one, which is not a major deal, with a tongue this cushioned and this high. So no issues anywhere with comfort all around the ankle, tongue, heel. Take a look at the counter here. It's kind of moderate, kind of soft. Get a bit of support. I'd call this moderate. It's not stiff at all. I don't feel any kind of harsh points anywhere in here. It's kind of this thicker upper material here. Again, not a super lightweight shoe. We're talking 10.9 ounces here, but this upper material has some kind of stiffness to it. Not as much as a traditional heel counter inside the shoe where it'll be like kind of a plasticky piece, but this kind of serves as your heel wrap and heel counter, and it extends all the way around here. So it does give a nice level of support, and you can see it also extends into the rest of the upper. So it is like the upper material itself in this Pursuit 3 that is giving you support throughout the foot, all around. And it just, everything feels really connected. That's one thing that I'm thinking about on the way up here. Everything feels connected to my foot, to my body. It's like very intuitive as I'm kind of like winding around here, rocks and all this kind of stuff. It's just an intuitive feel underfoot. It feels like I don't have to worry about the shoe where it is underneath me. It's just the shoe is where my foot is, which is not often the case when you have a lot going on underfoot. So one of the positive aspects of the Pursuit 3. Certainly at home in technical terrain, I like it as a zero drop protective option in technical terrain. And of course hiking be a sweet option if you want more ground feel, if you don't want a heavy boot style shoe and or a heavy and cushioned like max stack kind of hiking style shoe. It's more like in the moderate range, not a thin zero drop shoe either. So this is kind of like a sweet spot, or it could be a sweet spot for many runners and hikers in this natural toe box style, natural shoe type of range. Something new and awesome in for test here. Trado Trail Gaiters. They reached out to me, see if I wanted to test these, and I said, of course I want to test these. I love Trail Gaiters. I gotta look at these, and they definitely do look unique. They have this kind of cuff design around the ankle. I immediately thought of the Tecton X3 when I saw these gaiters. It's not just like a single piece of mesh as most gaiters are, where it's kind of like a single material and then it just tightens up here. It has like a cuff that comes over here and it's a little bit tighter around the ankle there. And I just saw it and I thought, oh my God, that's gonna be awesome, just based on looks. And this is actually, I saved it for the summit of Kepros here. First time I put these on, did not actually try these on yet at home. I knew the Pursuit 3, a feature is that they did change their gaiter attachment style. In the past, they had their proprietary double hook design in the back. They went with the standard Velcro here. Kind of, I guess it's a little tricky to manufacture your own gaiters all the time, and not much adoption. People tend to have their own type of gaiters. Trado here, these, they feel awesome. I just put them on, haven't run them yet, obviously haven't tested them, but gaiters are gaiters. If they fit well and they feel good, they generally tend to work. Solid Velcro here in the back. They have a, this is their kind of specialized white hook up front here, specialized design feature here. The Pursuit 3 does have the hook in here, but obviously this will work just as well. I might like to have it on my laces here anyway, we'll see. Instead of this tiny, this is a little small one from Topo here, but I love the fit of this. I love the seal here. A lot of those that are like a single kind of mesh, most of them are like that. It can be tough to get like a tight fit around here, or it can be too tight, or it can just like move around a lot. I have a feeling like with this cuff style design, it's just gonna kind of sit right here and it just looks perfect here. Ooh, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be dusty kind of on the way back down. The color on this gaiter here is called Dusty Green, which I think is appropriate because that is the reason why I mainly use gaiters. As you can see, quite dry around here in the summertime here in Idaho. We can certainly get our fair share of moon dust once it comes into the summertime. And certainly whenever I'm racing longer ultras, I always wear gaiters, and typically wear those ultra ones that I've been using for quite some time just because they are thinner and they do have a tight seal around the ankle, which is certainly a key feature that I zoned in on these Trado Gaiters. In terms of the colors, they have a lot of cool options. Kind of like green color, this kind of pale color I feel would match a lot of shoes that I have, and they do have a lot of two-tone designs, which are pretty interesting. So you can probably mix and match. The price is $29, which I think is pretty reasonable, certainly for a new brand. Now, what if you do not have the Velcro tab on the back of your trail shoes and you want to use Gaiter? Trado has got you covered. They sell a glue and Velcro pack for $5. They also come with the Gaiters. 2 little squares of Velcro, super sticky, and a little tube of super glue. It's called Future Glue. I have not tried it out yet, obviously, because the Pursuit 3 handily has them built in, as all trail shoes probably should. I'm looking forward to trying out those Velcro stickers, actually, because with my Ultra ones, when I wear shoes that typically don't have those Velcro tabs in the back, I've raced a lot in the Hoka Tectons, pretty much any other trail shoe, a lot of different shoes I've raced in. I buy, like at Home Depot, one of the stickiest kind of Velcros that I could see on the shelf, you know, pretty unscientifically, just kind of cut off a little square and hope it sticks on. Usually they'll last for like 100-miler, but I've had races where they're just kind of like hanging off the heel of my shoe at the end. The little Velcro tab that I stick on becomes unglued. It seems to be that they have that Future Glue setup and Velcro setup. I think they do have a kind of specialized design with the grabbers on their Velcro. So I am curious and hopeful that that will work very well. And if it does, that would just be a game changer for me, because $5 a pack, maybe grab an extra Gaiter or 2, and man, you're set to go. So I'm gonna head on back the rest of the way here, maybe pop in from time to time, talk about the mostly downhill ride and feel of the Pursuit 3 on the way back. Check in, of course, on the Trado Gaiters, but stay tuned to the end. I do have the other Pursuit version 2 back at the truck, also Vista, so do a quick little close-up at the end there. As far as my coming back to running, my legs are feeling quite good. I've been going on and off pretty much every other day, sometimes a couple days in a row. Past couple weeks, kind of steady increase here. I am running slightly more carefully, probably a lot more carefully, especially on the downhills, even in smoother stuff. Just not trying to really pound out the legs too much before I get back up to full speed. But I am feeling slightly more comfortable day by day, certainly with the downhills. So letting the legs go a little bit more every little day at a time. My hiker friend from earlier, she's working her way up there, doing well. Everybody seems to have gotten an early start. A lot of people out here. Kind of surprised it's out of the way, but it is Saturday, Memorial Day weekend, and just gorgeous weather out here today, so you can see people wanting to get out for a nice hike. It is about a 9 to 10 miler, so if you're hiking it, bit of significant elevation gain. For those that are out here hiking today, pretty solid route. Pretty good visibility out here today too. There's tons of 2-track out here, tons of kind of just numbered ATV trails, hiking trails, all kinds of stuff. I can see them way out in the distance, across the ridge, across the way, further beyond there. Everything you can see in front of you. It's kind of like a web of trails around here, and you can get going pretty far around here and have some nice scenery. Not too hot this time of year. Other side here, back towards Boise, over here, city over there, airport that way, and that's Lucky Peak. And the backside, or from this, not necessarily side, kind of Bogus Basin over there. Also, everything is still wonderfully green and bright this time of year. Well, this is my turnoff. I'm gonna head back down to the trailhead, steeper this way. So let's see. One thing I am doing as I make my comeback to running here, and is pertinent to the Pursuit 3 here, is I am being sure to have a solid full foot landing, trying to be balanced, trying to make sure my feet are always underneath my center of mass. And I am also trying to actively think about activating my glutes on the run. Every foot strike, trying to think about, or at least make that mental connection between, you know, my mind, what I'm trying to do, and my muscles. Kind of make sure I'm firing that glute, make sure I'm activating hip kind of stabilizers if that's possible, if that's something you could do even mentally. But the glute thing is certainly something you can think about on the run. And as I'm trying to come back here, as I'm of course running slower, it gives me more time, especially as I go on some of these descents here, just to make sure I'm landing solid and I'm pushing off of that glute, or just like activating it. And I believe that kind of, or at least trying to make that kind of mental connection, is gonna reduce impact on my quads, which was the potential cause of the injury that I had. Impact on the quads, hard to say for sure, but you always want to be activating your glutes, making sure your hip accessory muscles are working to stabilize, and also hip drive. Trying to work on my hip flexor stretches at home and even on the run a little bit, trying to make sure I'm staying open and not necessarily hunching over too much. I don't think that was something that was problematic for me, but now that I have the chance to take my time a little bit more, run a little bit slower, I think it is or will be beneficial to kind of maybe enhance or make those neural connections and pathways, and perhaps make me a more durable and even efficient runner going forward. Even hiking up here too, this is certainly probably easier even to make that connection. You could really push with the glutes here and actually really feel it if you're doing it correctly. Here, one of these early kind of windy flat sections here, little tiny saddle, but parts where I'm dodging sagebrush. I don't want to have that scratch up against my legs all the time, but certainly some of the ups and downs, a little more rocky, a little more windy, and that's where the Pursuit 3 really shines. Feels so balanced, so connected underfoot. Foot security is also excellent. Topo signature, another one of their signatures, mid-foot hold, so got that extra space up front, which can enhance stability because you could spread out those toes, actually use your toes to grab a little bit and give you a wider base of stability on the ground. But also mid-foot hold, again, super dialed, always with Topo. My foot never moves around in the middle of a Topo shoe. At times, heel hold could not be ideal. I think with the Vista, not the case here with this Pursuit 3. My heel is definitely locked in as I'm winding my way around, and I've certainly hit some steeper downs already. Coming back to the Trado Gaiters here, I have a size small. They have a size chart on their website. Check that out carefully, but small medium is listed at a US men's 6 to 9, while the large, extra large, is listed at 9.5 to 13. So I'm wearing a 10 here, true to size. I consider 9.5. That puts me squarely in the middle there. Now, with their ankle cuff measurements for small, they give 7.25 to 10.25, and large, extra large, 8.25 to 11.25. I measured myself and I got 8.75 around the ankle cuff, and that's right about here. This is the cuff right here. So that's where you want to measure. You don't want to measure down here. You want to measure where this cuff is. So I got 8.75, which is veering into the large, extra large territory, but I know, or I just had a feeling that if there's two sizes, I know that I don't have a really large kind of lower leg, upper ankle, so to speak. So I kind of figured I would go with the small medium. They did send me both sizes for comparison, and the large, extra large, is definitely too big for me. So again, I've got 8.75, which is still in their small medium range. Their small medium goes up to 10.25, while the large starts at 8.25. So I am more in the range of the small medium. So I thought that would be a better fit, and leaning more into the stretch aspect. I'd rather have it be a little tight around my ankle than a little loose. So that's my kind of sizing analysis there. If you do fall in between, I'm 8.75, and I think even if you were, say, up to an inch more even, I think there's room to stretch here. Let me double check. Yeah, there's plenty of room to stretch here. This is a small medium. Again, my ankle cuff is 8.75. You can certainly get these on easily if you're, say, an inch, maybe even more. So if you were looking into these Trado Gaiters, I wouldn't look at the shoe size, I'd look at that ankle cuff measurement. And of course, if you have any questions on sizing, let me know down in the comments. I'd be happy to help out. I do have a couple of other gaiter options in the mix. I may do a quick video as a kind of trail gaiter roundup. Of course, only with the gaiters that I have, because again, I've been using one that works really well for me, but I do have a couple of other options, plus this one now. So maybe a gaiter video in the near future. I am going to take this scenic cutoff here, or this steep trail cutoff here. Probably have a little more scenery around this way. So thank you for tuning in once again to Humble Running. Stay tuned for my close-up comparison at the end with the Vista and the previous Pursuit if you're interested. But please like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. Hopefully I'll be liking to get out here some of this more fun trails and terrain once the summer rolls around here. Also, as I ramp up my conditioning and training, I'll be getting into some more serious shoes. Not that this Pursuit 3 cannot handle serious technical terrain, but I've been holding off on running in some of the more aggressive models I have in for test until my legs feel a little bit more comfortable underneath me. Check out the website, of course, www.humblerunning.com. Sign up for my newsletter. I'm going to get back in gear with that one as well. Just put out a new one last week, and I'm going to try to get out more articles over there. So I always put links to my videos and other gear. Trado Trail Gaiters, link is down below in the description. Check these out for sure. They're still on, still feeling good. No problems at all. I have a feeling I'll be using those if I am going to lace up some races this season. So these will probably be on my feet or ankles. Affiliate links to Topo Pursuit 3, of course, and other Topo models, kit and gear that I use. My affiliate links do help support the channel. May earn a small commission, of course, but it's really minor. It, of course, doesn't cost you any extra if you do choose to support Humble Running and use those links. Thank you if you do choose to make your purchases through those links down below. Stay tuned for the close-up comparison. Got the 3s here, it's just running in. This is the previous Pursuit 2. You can see the difference in the gaiter attachment here. Proprietary one here, Velcro here, working nicely with my Trado Trail Gaiters. Not too much difference in terms of comfort and padding. They have a little bit more textured, a little bit softer felty mesh here. This is kind of like your standard smoothish one here, but comfort around the heel and the ankle just the same. Same with the tongue here. Nice and comfy, well padded. They did go with a different kind of material here. I think it's more of a brushed material in version 3. Maybe a little touch more comfort. In terms of weight, I have these at only 0.1 ounces lower than the Pursuit 3 here. So this does seem like a more substantial shoe. The weight is, again, just a touch higher, but the stack height is exactly the same. So no difference here. I think they might have gone up a little bit more. It seems with the sidewalls here, just kind of comes up a little bit more on the midsole here in version 3, whereas 2 slightly lower. Again, I have a half size down in here and just that touch lighter in this one. This is a more breathable shoe, I have to say. Pursuit 2, I could see through it here in the sun here. Very well ventilated here. Easily blow air. Whereas this one is much more restrictive. So from 2 to 3, you're definitely losing breathability in the upper. That is a downside there, but it does feel more substantial underfoot. Again, weight pretty much within a margin of error, exactly the same. Flex is similar here, but it just seems like there's more underfoot with this one. Of course, it's a fresher pair. They have probably tweaked the zip foam formulation just a little bit. They never really give the full details on that, but just a little bit more heft at exactly the same weight. The improved heel tab here, used with regular Gaiters, but reduced breathability as we just saw. Pop the Vista on here for a quick comparison. These are both US 10 EU 44s, but there's definitely more space here. I've got a full thumbs width here, even with this kind of mid-weight, pretty thick creeper socks here. Toe socks, thick merino wool around the toes, enough to fill up this, and it certainly seems wider and more volume in this Vista toe box in the same US 10. Even in front of the toes, I'm kind of like right up here with the Pursuit 3, and here I'm like back here with the Vista. So certainly you have a little bit extra bumper of space all around, and even on top of the foot, volume wise, with the Vista compared to the Pursuit 3. Also difference in tongue here, as you can see, nicely well padded. I am laced to the second eyelet as I showed earlier. Total comfort there. The Vista is borderline on the edge of this notch tongue. I've heard in comments that people have had issues with this. I could also feel, again, this is 30-30, this is 35-30, and I believe I did measure that 35, or maybe even more. But one thing you also note, and I'm not sure if I showed this earlier, I was having heel slippage in this, given that it fits so much bigger than a normal Topo 10, or at least a Topo 10 I've run in the past. So I was lacing to that second eyelet, as I do here in this Pursuit 3, but with the short tongue, I believe the row was like getting me right on the top of the ankle. So what I actually did is I punched an additional eyelet. So I punched a third eyelet here, kind of not as far back as this one. This is a shoe I definitely talked about. From here to this front eyelet, it's really wide, and that's contributing to heel slippage. But if I do the kind of lace locking, this is a big gap between that second eyelet and the front one, and the tongue is short. So if you do that, you're kind of getting over the top edge of this tongue. So what I did is, I do have a kind of like leather belt puncher that I use for this kind of purpose, and I punched one right here a little forward of the normal second eyelet. That way I can do the lace locking, and this really gives me the heel hold in this shoe that I want, and it keeps it just barely like above that tongue there, or just barely below that tongue where it's not on my ankle. So yeah, different fits here with the Vista and Pursuit 3. I'd say that's the main thing. If you want to like think of this as like a longer distance shoe, certainly with the 5mm drop and the softer feel for sure underfoot, you may want that extra space in there.